It's Friday. It's January. It's 2022. And that still sounds very futuristic when I say it out loud and just a little bit scary. Welcome to this new show of the new year. You may have noticed one of us is missing today. We believe he was kidnapped by the Christmas elves. We're not sure. We're going to send out a search party and make sure we get him back for next week. Unfortunately, Simon couldn't join us today. I've been assured he will be back very shortly, but we do have Cass, we do have Rich, so not all is lost. Let's start with some introductions. We're going to be talking today about some of the technical side of marketing within professional services. So it should be interesting to see how the conversation goes. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask. So, Cass, would you like to say hello if you finished eating your bowl of cereal?
It wasn't cereal. It was a Brazilian dish that I was eating in that 1 minute before we go live. Yeah, got a bit fancy in the new year. Happy New Year, everybody. I am Cat Collier. I head up Flair Insight. We help law firms with their marketing strategies, so helping them understand their environment, their competitors, and how they can seize opportunities. I have to admit, at this point, that I am not a techie, so things that Dave and Rich may be talking about, I will nod. But I can give a perspective of what different law firms are doing in terms of tech and different innovations. So that's me in a nutshell.
That sounds good. So we'll move on from the owned up non-techie to somebody who is much more tech savvy. I'm putting all the pressure on you, Rich.
I was going to say no pressure. Although, yeah, I would say I'm not a techie, but I am a massive fan of tech, legal tech, and gadgets and things like that. So, yeah, my name's Rich Dibbins. I'm founder of Staxton Digital, providing digital marketing services, primarily content and social media for the legal sector and legal providers. I'm very much looking forward to this. So my apologies if my inner geek breaks out around legal tech. So yeah, I'm excited to explore this area today.
Kat's really looking forward to this, I can tell.
I'm just studying your new wall art, Rich, and reading it. That's why I'm...
right. I moved the camera slightly. Yeah, that's the head and dressed. What more do you want? It's my rip-off Banksy prints that I've got up there.
Very nice, very nice. And just very briefly, I am David SAYCE, digital marketing consultant, working with professional services firms and B2B firms, deal a lot within SEO migrations and general digital marketing strategy. So that's me. I enjoy tech. I think it's interesting what is happening at the moment. The whole meta. We were saying just before the show, the buzzwords for this year seem to be metaverse and Web 3.0, which I've got to say, it's having gone through 2.0 and thought, yeah, you're naming something that doesn't really need a name there. I can see this is going to be the big buzz of 2022. So as well as tech, we'll talk about some of the stuff as well happening within marketing. We've got somebody who's desperate to hear more about SEO. Well, we'll see. We'll see what we can do. We'll see what we're like for time. I think it's going to be an interesting year all round for tech, for marketing. Be interesting to see what law firms are doing. But Rich, I mean, you've probably been following, out of the three of us, I think you've probably been following metaverse the most out of us.
Yeah, recently Gymshark posted on LinkedIn last week their first metaverse meeting. So they've also, and it was a little bit ropey if you watch the video. But they had a meeting with their team in the US, team in Europe, and I think it was one team in the Far East. But yeah, they were all sat there around the table. The founder, Ben, sorry, I can't remember his last name. But they did a metaverse meeting, and it was okay. It was a little bit blippy. Some people compared it to, this is basically Zoom, in a virtual presence. Yes, it probably is. But one of the nice things that they started doing was they actually had it geared up. They were presenting something on screen. There's a little bit of interaction, like digital interaction with them, and it looked good. Did it blow me away? No. Can I see a law firm doing something like this? Absolutely. I just think it was Zoom on steroids in the nicest, easiest possible way. But yeah, this whole metaverse, it is developing. It's Facebook's, should we say, digital nirvana. They want people to be in this kind of new landscape. And as well as that, it's all the other stuff that's been blending in. That, you know, people are buying real estate in the metaverse. You can, you know, there's sponsored ads around it. There's, I think one of the funny stories I read over Christmas, Snoop Dogg bought a property in the metaverse and somebody has paid $440,000 to live next door to him in the metaverse. I mean, somebody has paid almost $500,000 to live next door to Snoop Dogg in the metaverse. Get your head around that. That's just, you know, weird and wonderful. But yeah, I can see it happening. How, when, and where in the legal sector, that is going to be anybody's guess.
I've got to say, I mean, I saw the Gymshark video, and I think very, very mixed reactions about it. I think, you know, having seen this creeping through over so many years, I think when you first look at it without a full understanding, it looks a bit ropey. It looks like, I don't know, The Sims circa mid-90s or something, with quite blocky characters moving around. But I think the thing to remember is it really is that wider integration. And it's interesting, I think, that you mentioned Zoom there, because we've all kind of got a bit used to Zoom. We've got used to webinars, this sort of interaction like this. And I think it's interesting because when you look at the metaverse and what Gymshark did, it makes this look very flat. Yeah. I think with the metaverse, it was that full-on interaction, and it does make me wonder, okay, well, this is what it is now, and it may look a bit jerky, it may look a bit ropey, it's, you know, not exactly high definition, but that interaction, as everything else catches up, it's not going to be long before you have whatever the headset is or eyepiece is, and it is almost that total immersion. And working on projects remotely, let alone just regular meetings, I think that's hugely beneficial. I think there's a lot that is very difficult to get across through a very almost two-dimensional Zoom camera chat, as opposed to this, well, let me just show you how this works and what I mean. I think both psychologically and how it looks is going to be very interesting going forward.
I liked the, you know, when you were looking at the monitor of their screen, just the idea of, because when you share your screen on Zoom, everybody minimizes and you can't see absolutely everybody. But if you've got those people in the room, it kind of feels more collaborative. I suppose the other thing is, if you're not going to do, for example, if you're a lawyer who's working in real estate, having a 3D model of what you're actually working on, for example, that people can fully understand. So making the legal a bit easier to navigate is an opportunity. But I don't know if I could see this coming soon.
No, and I hate to kind of, I mean, lawyers, the technology element within law firm or legal profession is behind the curve. It massively is, always has been. You know, people are still going on Zoom. Can you hear me? Can you see me? So throw in a headset and think, you know, a more advanced aspect of, you know, technology that they need to embrace. It's leaps ahead, basically. There's a big gap. So, but I could definitely see it, you know, a collaborative litigation team working on, you know, if you're working on a big litigation case around the globe, you know, having people sat in a conference room. I'd like to see what that looks like. You know, a lot of lawyers sat there with the headsets on, kind of all doing all of this kind of in the room. I'd love to be on the fly on the wall to see that. But I think it works for certain professions at the moment. Gymshark, they're massively on social at the moment. They have a product to offer. You know, they're launching their big office in Piccadilly kind of thing. So I could see how that does work. But yeah, I think it's still grasping the technology aspect with law firms. They're just getting grips with Zoom, hybrid working. It's understanding how, and do they give out 20 headsets to everybody and they all sit at their desks, and then they all join in on a meeting. It's the little nuances within technology that are going to be the issue.
I'll tell you the irony of this. When I am out in offices, which I have been a few times in the last couple of years, it still seems to be the case. Just walk into a regular meeting room, there's that 15-minute struggle to get mics, cameras, telephone working at the best of times, and I can imagine this sort of really just leaping ahead of that. I think, as I say, it's going to be a few years, but where it may be a case that it's just a flick of the switch, a pair of glasses, whatever it becomes. And I think the visuals, as they improve as well, I think it could really be something. And whether it ends up being sort of as if you're sitting there with the lawyer, the skeuomorphic side of it comes in, like Kat said, with the laptop, the contract is there, the pages are turning over, you can see them pointing to various elements of it. I think it could be very interesting. And I think it works more accessible as well for some people.
Have you seen the new Apple concept glasses?
I have. I'm surrounded by Apple stuff. I not just now.
I like the concept that they've come up with. You no longer need a screen. You just put on the glasses and everything is visually in front of you. Now that is good. I do like that. The fact that you put your hands in front of you and you can start typing on a keyboard, or you can do, almost the kind of Minority Report, Tom Cruise kind of swishing and doing all that. I love the idea of it. I really, really do. I just hope that those types of ideas do come to fruition and they work. Because we all know what happened with Google Glasses, don't we? Those look like something out of the Van Damme Cyborg, I can't remember what the film was, where they had the weird eye thing. And then you wave your hand like this. People are waving you over across the street. And you're like, I'm not waving at you. I'm going through my browser. They were big. They were bulky. And if I remember rightly, the sound was awful on them. And I think they were $1,000. In the end, they were giving them away for free.
Yeah, it was invitation only to begin with.
Yeah. So, we've seen this kind of tech come through before. So it all comes down to the users and the functionality of it. But I'd like to think that the Apple glasses do come into play, because I would love it if I didn't have a screen. Just put on the glasses and I can just start typing and doing stuff like that.
I've got to say, first time I watched Minority Report and I saw Tom Cruise doing the whole, and I thought, that's how I can comfortably work and get through all those pages and stuff. Something that's much more intuitive like that. And I think that's a really valid point, and it may well be that there's options when it comes to the VR where it may just be like in the film with the gloves, and some sort of screen in front of you, and then it moves on to, well, you want the full thing. You've got the goggles, the glasses, whatever they become. There's probably a full bodysuit somewhere. I think I saw a gaming thing somewhere where you could walk on a pad.
In Gloucester, there is a game zone where you put on a full kind of morphic suit, whatever they call it, and it's you run around. Basically, when I looked inside of it, it's loads of people running around with VR headsets on, this morphic suit with these guns in an empty room, totally empty space, and they're shooting each other. I mean, it's the funniest thing you'll ever watch. If you put rave music to it, it's almost like those goths who did it to the Thomas the Tank Engine thing on YouTube. I think so. That's an idea for something to go viral. But I looked at that and I thought, well, how would that work in a would you get a load of lawyers at home that kind of strapped into a thing and they're in a virtual conference, not this kind of Slido or, all the conference software out there at the moment, which is okay, but still not great. Do they do some form of, virtual conference sat in there, they can see, talk and all that kind of stuff. But that's that type of tech is already out there. It's great in the gaming industry, but kind of falling back to, will a lawyer embrace that? I'm not 100% sure they would.
Bearing in mind, there's probably still a few that are just using, or I know a few that are just still using faxes. But anyway.
Oh, well.
I like the idea of the virtual events, though. because I think that was something there. There's a few events here in London that, as lockdown happened, they became very much online, and they tried a number of different software approaches where you'd have a key speaker, and then it would move into well, we'll put you into these little rooms which are supposed to be the tables, and you talk to each other. And it was an interesting concept, but I really struggled with it. It didn't have that same feel of literally the organic side of just going up to somebody and saying hello. It was a lot more forced, and I think this takes away from some of that and makes it all a bit more natural.
Yeah, I don't think anything will replace the face-to-face conferences. People want that human interaction. We need that human interaction as individuals. I've been on a number of those conferences where you break out, where you sit at a table and you can go and click on somebody and go and speak to them. It makes it easier for that other person not to speak to you. Now, I don't take it personally if I clicked on somebody who didn't want to speak to me. What I later found out was that people who attended the conference were clicked in and then just disappeared. You know, they were just sat there in a conference, but not actually doing it. They might have been doing work, but they were just had it on another window. So a lot of people said to me, they went, "I noticed you clicked on me 4 hours ago. Sorry, I was busy doing work." Like, would you do that at a conference? Of course you have your phone with you, you'd be checking emails, but would you be doing work? What if somebody came over to you? Absolutely not. So I think with these virtual aspects, it makes it very easy for people not to engage with people. I'm sat here, I'm doing it. I can click on here. I can go to the bathroom. I can go and watch YouTube, whatever. So I don't think anything will replace this human element as much as probably Facebook would want it to. I think that we still need this human face-to-face conferences, awards, all of that, because that is what people do tend to enjoy as well.
Yeah. I think it's going to be interesting watching throughout 2022. I think we've really started it with the metaverse latching on to the buzzword. I think it's number one buzzword at the moment. It's going to be interesting to see how it evolves through the year, because I think it's going to happen quickly this year. Whether it gets to a more usable, more generally accepted stage, I don't know, but I think there's definitely going to be a lot of talk about it going forward. We're all going to be wanting to buy property next to Snoop.
I think the communication with, because the other side of the coin is how do you communicate with clients? You can't expect a client to go and buy a $2,000 headset. Imagine like a middle-aged person, in private client. Okay, yeah, we're going to do a conference. We're going to do a conference call. We've sent you a headset. Please strap it on and we can start talking. They're not going to do that, or a majority are not going to do that. Maybe a younger generation, who knows? But how do you engage with clients? So it kind of brings us on to, the next element of tech, which I'm seeing law firms embrace greatly, is the client portal. How to engage rather than just emails backwards, forwards, which, as we all know, our inboxes are fuller now than ever before. These client portals where you can log in, track progress, communicate, track everything, upload documents, download, you can do verification of funds and ID, all of this stuff, that is going to be more prevalent and useful to a law firm than these kind of metaverse aspects, which I do see, it will come to fruition, but in 4 or 5 years' time. Whereas the client portals that they can interact with rather than snail mail or email, that is going to be the cornerstone of success for law firms.
I can see that from a client management perspective. I mean, when I've engaged with law firms as Flare Insight, I've had people make excuses that they haven't seen things. But you can build that into the client portal about when replies need to be made and all that kind of side of it, just to make that fluid process now that we're basically virtual. But yeah, I can definitely see that being adopted by, I mean, there are even big firms that aren't doing that yet. So
there's a massive change from Land Registry as of November 22 this year. All AP1 submissions, applications for existing titles need to now to be submitted digitally as of November this year. So a lot of law firms are kind of panicking because they normally it's a paper-based form, or they'll scan a document or a PDF and upload it. And there's what's called requisitions. It's backwards and forwards. This is wrong. This is inputted incorrectly. And the Land Registry have grasped that the digital era is here. They need to embrace it. And it is saving a lot of time with law firms. They're not spending this whole backwards and forwards. So these client portals, or even government portals to help with law firms, especially the conveyancing market, are proving very, very useful. They're a long time coming. So how the market reacts post-November is anybody's guess. But the feedback already is that this is saving us a boatload of time because we're not scanning. There's no manual process. It's all just done online. So yeah, how way that moves is going to be intriguing.
There's I think there's a consultation out about virtual signing of wills as well.
Well, digital signatures for Land Registry came into play 2020, and the signing of wills as well is I think it's now being accepted, or it's at the stages where it will be accepted. So, I mean, in any other sector, signing a digital document. Only the other day, I had to sign a document with a finance company in terms of some work that I'd done. And I'd done it all, just everything was all done online. I didn't even have to speak to anybody. So why can't that be embraced in the legal sector is beyond me.
It's interesting because I think the client portal, I've worked with a number of firms that have either, and this is some time ago, they either had something light that got them started, or they were looking into it. And it's one of those areas that I think, Rich, as you say, I'm surprised it hasn't moved quicker, considering how useful it is. I mean, as Kat says, I mean, it benefits everyone all round. I can understand there's a cost. Maybe it is literally the technical side of it that scares the firms.
Yeah, and I've always said, if somebody's scared of something, if somebody doesn't understand something, they're scared of it, or typically they won't spend money on it. So yeah, I mean, I've always DocuSign. They do digital signatures. It's brilliant. I asked a lawyer. I said, how long does it take to send an employment contract to get signed by the client, or a client care letter? And he said it takes about a week to 2 weeks for it to be turned around. And I said, and how much does it cost? And he said, well, it's about £2 for postage and packing. I said, no. Now add in your paralegals, or the admin time, the employment solicitor's time, your practice manager's time, all of this, and all the other elements that go behind it. He said, well, it's probably about 45 minutes work. I went, okay, brilliant. And do you charge for that billing? He went, no, we can't. That's kind of admin. I went, okay. So how many of those would you do a month? He said about 5 or 6. We multiplied that by his hourly rate throughout the 12 months. It was in the thousands. I said, right. Now, what if you spend £2 by using this technology that you could send it could get it all signatured and it's authorized. You already set up the standard template and it's just done in a matter of minutes. He said, well, that's impossible. I said, let me show you. And I showed him. And he said, well, how do we get more of these? And I said, we just pay for them as and when you use them. And he was blown away by it. He said, how long has this been around? I said, years. It's improved, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a case of either just lack of knowing. I don't like to beat up law firms for tech. It's just a lack of knowing or understanding. They're busy running a practice, or got lots of clients they're working with. Some of this stuff just flies by them, and before you know it, 5 years has gone by.
Is it now accepted that digital signatures are okay?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially in the conveyancing market. If some conveyancers, a lot of it's on LinkedIn, where they'll go, we won't accept digital signatures for the following reasons, or you'll hear as an estate agent go, why don't law firms still accept digital signatures for this, and this kind of thing? And the amount of law firms that jump on and go, we accept it. And they start generating business from that estate agent, because they go, yeah, we do it. We've been doing it for years. We know clients, or we've been doing it for months. We know this is what clients want. I mean, if somebody said to me, we're going to send you a form for you to sign in the post, my first pushback is, send it to me digitally, please. I can do it right now. And they'll go, no, we don't do that. Okay, then why not? And this is how we've always done it. That's the fallback. Yes. We've always done it this way. That should not be the excuse. Or we've done it because our practice managers have been doing it for 20 years and won't change. That's the other real bad excuse. And I go, you need to stop doing that. Look at the law firm down the line. They're doing 90% of your transactions digital, their transactions digitally. They are cornering a huge market in the next 12 to 18 months. So technology is not there to cripple a law firm or bamboozle them. It's definitely there to help.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting. I mean, the example you gave there about, the £2 envelope and stamp versus the time it takes and all the rest of it. I remember back in the turn of the century when the dot-coms started off, and it was the huge thing back then was how much it costs to invoice somebody. And it all got crazy, and the estimates were anything between £20 and £150 to raise an invoice and deal with this and all the rest. And this was a time when digital was coming in and saying, well, if you do it with us and our systems, it's 50 pence, 26 pence, 2.5 pence. And I think it's always worth having a look at those processes. Where can you be more efficient? Where can you save the money? Because you often find, I mean, DocuSign especially, I mean, that is just so regularly used now. I can't remember the last time I physically signed something.
Yeah, me neither. Might have been my wife's birthday card. That was it. It was. I generally can't remember either when I signed a formal document that needed to be, whatever the process would be.
I mean, it's because years ago I remember going through a house sale, and it was the various meetings, it was the bank, the lawyer, all the rest of that, all that time, the travel to sign a bit of paper and all the rest of it, and how that can all be made a lot slicker now, even with, to some extent, the identification of individuals as well. I think we're moving forward very quickly with that. There's the government gateway ID.
Yeah.
I think Royal Mail Post Office are part of that setup. So yeah, I mean, there really is no reason to get up off that sofa anymore.
No, and I mean, one of the other big ones with law firms is financial transactions. It's verification of funds. There was a law firm, I think it was November, October last year. They found foul because they didn't do their checks properly, and a guy had managed to buy a house that wasn't his. The guy was in Wales, and this guy had managed to buy the house and sell it and pocket the proceeds and disappear in a space of 2 weeks.
Oh, wasn't the owner away for an extended vacation?
Yeah, the owner was in Wales for a couple of weeks, and this law firm apparently didn't do their checks. But somebody had managed to come in and just take the property, buy the property, but something to do around with the title deeds. When I found out about this, there's a free thing with the land registry where you can do home alerts. So if anybody tries to question who owns this property. So I did it for all my family, myself, my in-laws, my parents, my brother-in-law, sister, everything. I did it all for them. So we registered all their houses. But it was scary from that point of view that somebody could buy your house or sell your house while you still owned it. And it was unfortunately, it was the law firm who just didn't do the checks, the verification of identity and funds. So yeah, there are still these things out there that's happening. But biometric scanning, you get a phone, it scan your face and it checks you are. My curiosity with it, and I don't know if you've seen this, David, have you heard of something called deep fake?
Yes.
There's a guy on Instagram, deep fake, who does an incredibly good Tom Cruise. Now I'm wondering, how good is that? I mean, that's almost kind of like Mission Impossible style deep fake, isn't it? But at what stage is that? Are the hackers going to be using that to do VOI and VOF kind of thing? I'm curious to know, because there is that other side of the coin. Whatever technology you come up with, there's a hacker who's going to try and hack it.
And that side of things is frightening. I mean, I've seen a lot of cases where, somebody's posted up a little hobby video they did where they did the special effects better the de-aging better and all of the rest of that to a blockbuster film.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, ignoring even the whole validation through that, but just is this really me?
Yeah.
Or has Simon Marshall actually taken my persona and doing a bit of Tom Cruise just to fool you all?
There's only one way.
No, because
the unicorn, just the unicorn. That's the only
yeah, but we know it's not Simon because you're not commanding the whole conversation, so it's all okay.
Actually, imagine if you joined that. That's a good point, because metaverse as well. Sorry to go back to that, but the security behind metaverse, nobody's really talked about that. So what happens if you stole somebody's VR headset, logged in, and I'm pretending to be your lawyer, and I get all your details? That's quite scary in itself, actually.
Is that really Snoop Dogg who's bought that house?
Well, yeah, exactly. Was it Snoop Dogg? Is it even Snoop Dogg in the metaverse? Is it just somebody weird and wonderful? Who knows?
You know, at the birth of the World Wide Web, there was the famous New York Times cartoon, and it was, and this was the thing at the time. Online, nobody knows if you're a dog, and there was a picture there of a dog sitting at a computer, working away, and it just it's the same old thing. I mean,
this is what stops law firms, though, isn't it? That there's that whole security element, and so. I mean, I know of a firm that took about 2 years to roll out Windows 2007, and it was about 2016 at the time. And so, yeah, those technologies in themselves need to have that security element for law firms to adopt it. But yeah, that's what protects them to work out. And also with GDPR, they're going to have to build that in anyway, aren't they? So
yeah.
But yeah, that's what the challenge is, I think.
I think in that case, so I know a few firms where, especially with in-house browsers on computers, I mean, this is, again, I'm just harking back all through this conversation, back to Explorer 5.5 and everyone who hung on to that. There's the security side of moving forward, but also there is the security implication of not moving soon enough. So you've kind of got not exactly a sweet spot, but there's this nice area in the middle where you are you're good. Just find where you're comfortable within that spot and try and keep moving.
The other part of this conversation is also down to law firms driving more recruitment for their teams as well, because a lot of, should we say, lawyers will be looking at what tech have you got? You know, if I'm going to leave this firm to come to you, this is what I'm used to. What are you guys investing in doing? And I've seen a huge shift in hybrid law firms, you know, remote law firms, Setfords, barristers, clerks' room, shall we say, Mezzle, which has just recently been released. All of these firms have got great tech behind them to attract more talent. I mean, clerks' room, and hopefully Stephen still has this. I remember years ago, you could order an Uber through their chatbot and tell him what coffee you wanted when you arrived. Now, that's pretty... Sorry, Molly's just because the Amazon guys there. That was a couple of years ago. So I'd love to know where and what Billy Bot is up to at the moment. But all these law firms, these remote law firms, like I said, Setford, Mezzle, a couple of the other ones, Flint Bishop, they've all got some form of technology that's attracting more lawyers.
It's interesting because I think that leads on to areas. One I've worked on a little bit is chatbots, AI, that side of things. And that's something I find very interesting because I think that is one where I think some firms rushed in too quickly. They tried to throw everything at it and then quickly became upset when it didn't appear to be working. So there's a number of firms I've worked with where it's been set up and they know it's just there to cover some of those basics. What are the top 100 frequently asked questions? Can we answer that 24/7 on the website? Great. Customer, client happy.
Absolutely. I'm just going to quickly answer the door because I'll be back in 2 seconds, David. But yeah.
Go for it. Go for it. Right. We can now talk about Rich as well. Hey, how much of this technical side do you see?
It's when firms are looking to launch their own products, they ask us to look at the competitors and what they're up to. So I've seen, there've been 2 examples of VR that I've seen that I've actually sent on to you guys. So there's DLA, who when it was COP26 launched their virtual reality building, basically, that you could walk around. I think when you clicked on it, it wasn't working.
Oh, yeah.
I think I suspect they launched it to the market and internally, and everybody went on. And my husband, who works in IT, calls it the hug of death. So, yeah, that was DLA. And then I've seen DIC Beechcroft also have a virtual reality. It's basically a web page that you can look around at their innovations. For those firms, it tends to be, it's like an interactive brochure rather than kind of a legal update or anything of that nature. So at the moment, it's just staying at that kind of brochure format, I think. And I think that interactivity with regards to insight, which clients really value, would be something that would be great. Anything else that I've seen largely is around kind of client relationship and client portals, all that kind of side of it. Claims handling, for example, something that isn't, and conveyancing as well. So that you can see your matter, where it's at and what's happening, and that visibility. But yeah, a lot of it is, there tends to be a few techs in the market. So anything that's brand new, I'm not sure if I've seen come through, but Rich, you may have seen something, I'm not sure.
I've not, other than a number of the Perfect Portal is one of them. They a lot of firms now are looking for what's called integrations into their CMS or case or practice management systems. So that's where the real technology is being pushed, the integrations between software providers. But the problem is that one software provider will say, we provide this, you provide that, but we don't want you to do one of these and we'll do the other one. So it's finding that fine balance between the 2 of them. Just going on back to where you mentioned, was it DLA Piper, kind of a virtual office? Do you remember when Google would send a photographer into your office and do a 360 photo, and people could do a tour of your office? I don't know if they still do that, but that was a few years back. That's almost kind of what Metaverse 101, basic looking around. I loved it when they did that, when I was at my previous agency, because we were all told to either sit still or get out the room, and they did the 360, and some people would walk in, it was like this weird blur of people throughout the office. But I don't know if Google is still doing that anymore, that kind of
I'm not sure. They were, at least up to a few years ago, because a couple of photographers I know here in London were actually Google business photographers. They'd go in with that 360 camera.
Yeah.
And they basically wander around your building. And I mean, the one thing with that was it was interesting when it first started. It was a little bit clunky, but it's been a couple of years. But the last time I looked at it, it was a much smoother experience. And I think when you had places like some of the lovely fancy restaurants and places like that, to get a sense, I mean, that was kind of edging towards this VR experience, that sort of being able to guide yourself around a room and have a look around was very interesting.
Yeah, because I think you can do it for the National History Museum. You can click on it, and you can visit the museum and go around and see everything with it. Just before I round off then, you mentioned with the chatbot whole element, I think chatbots were over-promised and under-delivered. Yeah. It will help with this, and this. And
it will do everything.
Yeah, and it just didn't. Some chatbots out there were good. I think it was IBM who released, it was Watson, the $1 million license. Who was going to buy that? Nobody, but lots of people kind of built off the back of that. So yeah, some of the chatbots that I've seen are more intuitive these days. I've always said, if you're going to have a chatbot, say to your clients, it's a chatbot. Don't pretend you're a human being. There's nothing worse.
I remember I was at a meeting with RBS, Royal Bank of Scotland, and they were working through, I think, their second iteration of chatbot, and that was exactly what they were saying. It was about, we don't want to have somebody come in and think they're actually talking to somebody. We want to make it very aware that we're going to guide you through, see if we can sort out, if you just want to know what time we open, where the nearest branch is, those, as I say, top 100 questions or so, we can give you that answer very quickly, very easily, anytime, any place. But it would very quickly then, once it ran out of helpful questions or wrong answers, it would be a case of, well, okay, I'm going to make sure that somebody does call you back. And I think the thing I always struggled with that was when it made out to be too friendly. It was sort of, it wasn't exactly a Turing test, but it was sort of a, are you really somebody? And then you just start writing abusive things and see if they respond.
I think
that's not advisable, obviously.
No, I think
sorry, Rich. I was just going to say that's the big lesson, isn't it? When you implement tech or you're looking to implement tech, it's got to be centered on the client journey rather than the fact that you want to be like your peer. And chatbots, yeah, I've used them for one firm because that was the only way they would allow you to engage with them, and it made no sense, and then nobody got back to me. So from client relationship management.
There's lessons from the Wizard of Oz here. Don't hide stuff behind the curtain.
Yeah. I've always said the problem with technology isn't technology. It's the fleshy bit behind the technology. That's the downfall, not to quote something out of Terminator, you know. But with all these wonderful things, it's always comes back to a law firm's got this, we want it, but they don't know how the other law firm's using it, but we want it because we've heard they've got this new shiny toy. So we now want it. And they will spend tens of thousands of pounds on it and then do nothing with it. CRMs are the most common. You know, why do we need a CRM? Well, it help you, you know, track new opportunities and so on and so on. It's great for marketing purposes, but nobody really actually demonstrates why and what the CRM is there for. And it's, oh, this is another system we need to log into. No, it's not. It's there so you can, you know, future-proof and demonstrate your prospects, your opportunities that you've got coming up. Because the biggest thing I always ask law firms is, how many opportunities have you got and how many have you missed? And they go, well, how do we know the ones we've missed? Well, what are the ones you followed up on? We don't do that. Yeah. I go, why don't you store them in a CRM system or somewhere, bare basic HubSpot, and you can start tracking and monitoring. But when you show the amount of money they're losing by not doing this, suddenly that's the light bulb moment.
It's funny you mentioned CRM systems. I think there's a similarity with CMSs. So the back end of your website. A number of times I've been brought in and firms are saying, yep, we want to do this big migration. We're moving from this platform all the way over to this one and da-da-da-da-da. And you start diving into, well, why are you doing it? And it turns out it's basically, rather than clean the house, they're just going to bulldoze it and move somewhere else. And, you know, it's surprising how often I've seen that. It's just been, things have got messy. They want a new start. And it's, right, well, let's move CMS. That's going to be the way to do it. And, of course, that brings a whole load of risk and all the rest. So, yeah, interesting.
Do you find as well with a CMS, do you find somebody wants to move because they've got a new employee in, a new marketing person or practice manager, and they're used to this other CMS, not the one they've got currently. And so a law firm will spend tens of thousands of pounds building a new content management system because of that one person. And then that person leaves. And then law firm's left holding the bill for it. Yeah. That I find is staggering. And I go, why not just teach that person? Oh, they don't want to know. No, they don't tell you how to run a law firm. So you need to, you know, coach them how to edit a website. I find that a lot. We want to use
I've seen that, and I think it's one of those, it's that old sort of, somebody new comes into a firm, needs to be seen to make a change. That's one of those sort of changes they can possibly make. I've seen it happen a number of times, and I've seen it work well, and I've seen it fail quite spectacularly. But yeah, I mean, it's, as with anything else, due diligence, do your checks, make sure it's right for you.
Yeah. A quick resource for law firms watching, go to Legal Futures. They have a list of the top 100 law firms and what they're using, all their technology, from their case management through to accountancy, digital signatures, VOIF, the whole 9 yards. It's a brilliant spreadsheet that they still have. You sell your soul, you give your email address, but it gives you a list of what the top 100 law firms are using. And it's a brilliant resource because some law firms will go, we need to use this because of this. And then you can see the other applications that they're working in between it. So Legal Futures, credit to you guys for still producing that list, because I look at it and think there's quite a few people that moved around, or law firms will stay with the same technology. They've just upgraded it and moved with the times.
Yeah. It's funny, I did a similar list by hand about 12 years ago, and that was painful.
Oh. There's legaltechnology as well.com. They give you news on who's taken on which product, which can be interesting. So
I guess the nice thing about it in the legal sector, you're spoiled for choice for technology. You really, really are. So I can appreciate it's a hard decision to make because so many people are saying they do all these things. I know of a company that does case management selection for law firms, because law firms will just go and buy one because they go, so-and-so is using it, or we don't like this one. So, you've got certain niche companies that are offering that service as well.
It's interesting. I think it's one of the issues I see time and time again is the stakeholder rush. It's somebody else has it, we want it, and we don't want it next year. We want it this year. In fact, we want it now. And that's something that I think, especially when you're spending huge amounts of money trying to integrate generally quite complicated systems at that integration point, it's something that does need to be considered quite early on.
Definitely.
So, Rich, Kat, is this the year of the metaverse? Are you going to be buying houses and property near to Snoop Doggy Dogg? We can't get anywhere close to him because I think they're going to be far too expensive, but at least down the road.
I might be his paper boy. I might do that, his virtual paper boy on there. No, I've looked at buying real estate in the metaverse. It is incredibly complex and it's not cheap. So yeah. I've looked into it because it always curious with that, driven with NFTs and so on. So is the metaverse coming to the legal sector in the next 2-3 years? Absolutely not. My prediction.
What do you reckon, Kat? Would you like to jump into the metaverse?
I think firms will have a stab at something. Probably the American firms first. But whoever is the law firm for Google. Let's go for that, or a Facebook.
Council. That 300 lawyers, I think, will already have created their one. It'd be intriguing to see, as well as our agency's going to go in there. Other providers. There needs to be a market for how and what law firms are going to do within it. But next 2-3 years, I think it's just grasping technology, where and how it's going to help them in-house, and then explore, the other trinkets and bells and whistles that they can have as well.
Sounds like common sense to me. Well, I think we're coming up on time now. Let's wrap it up. We've got to send out the search party, see where Mr. Marshall is, see if we can capture him and return him from those evil Christmas elves who have kidnapped him. We should get some sort of fundraiser going perhaps for this. I don't know. Yeah. Interesting. Anyway, we're going to wrap it up here. Rich, Kat, always a pleasure seeing you. Happy New Year to the pair of you. Well, let's just hope 2022 is a little less interesting than the last 2 years and a little bit more enjoyable. But until next week, look after yourselves.
Thank you, David. Bye-bye.